Welcome to today's Table Talks. My name is Scott Kappelman, and I want to welcome you to our special edition today as we talk about some Thanksgiving-related things. How are my co-hosts, though? Clark McGehee, how are you?
I'm a little busy this week, but I'm pretty good. I'm excited to be here now doing this podcast for us.
Okay.
So,
Tyce, how are you?
I'm doing good. I've got a final project to do this week, and then I'll be good to go.
You've got a big trip coming up.
I do have a big trip, and I'm not looking forward to this podcast before this big trip.
Yeah, because our topic today is going to kind of get into your business
It is going to get
related
into
to
my
the trip.
business. So.
That's right.
true.
All right, so if you're curious about our topic, we know we're in the month of November as we're recording this, and we've got Thanksgiving just around the corner. But today's topic is gluttony a sin? And I don't know that we could have planned this any better for a topic that's going to apply to the Thanksgiving season, but is gluttony a sin? So, first of all, I want to ask both of you, how many Thanksgivings do you have to attend over the next week or so?
It's a good question. I'll let Tyce go first.
So I'm actually not going to attend a single one.
You're not going to go to a single Thanksgiving meal?
Well, no. So we're going to be on a cruise this Thanksgiving, and so if the cruise does a Thanksgiving meal, then we'll have one. But I don't know. I mean, we're gonna be in the Bahamas on Thanksgiving, so
Wow.
I don't know how much.
Come on.
Now,
Thanksgiving
that's interesting I'll be interested to hear when you get back whether the cruise had a Thanksgiving meal or not.
So
That's interesting.
but
Okay.
yeah. So I've already attended two though.
Already.
So, already attended two.
Okay. Clark, what about you?
My family are terrible planners, so I don't know that my side of the family is doing any Thanksgivings, or they might text, Thursday and say, "Hey, we're having Thanksgiving today. Is y'all come on down?" I don't really know, but Annabeth's side of the family, I think we're doing two, so
2 Thanksgivings with her family.
with just her family, I think that's right.
Have you already had some like Tyce?
Well, we had our Cross Point Thanksgiving dinner this past Sunday, but other than that, we have not had any.
Okay, well, I guess I
so.
could count that one as well. I wasn't thinking about counting the Thanksgiving one. We just celebrated as a church, but that'll count. That's
Yeah,
one of
you
mine.
should count that.
Okay. I think I've got one to go to at my family's. I'm sure we'll go by Kelly's mom's and maybe eat some leftovers. So if you count that, I'll end up being in 3.
See, I'm kind of counting that in mine as well. Yeah.
Okay. Here's my second one. What are you looking forward to eating the most over Thanksgiving?
Shrimp
Shrimp on the cruise.
on the cruise. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
much
pretty
shrimp.
good. That's good. I actually love dressing because it's such a you only have it this time of year. So I love like dressing and cranberry sauce. If I don't have cranberry sauce on my dressing, don't even put it on my plate.
Brooklyn's also a big cranberry sauce person. Like that's her thing. She has to make it and everything.
Good. I mean, and because a good cranberry sauce also goes a long way. I mean, out of the can is fine. I like it and it's okay. But I've had like homemade cranberry sauce and I'm thinking,
You've had homemade
That's how
cranberry
Brooklyn
sauce.
does hers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hers is homemade as well.
I had one that was like almost like a spicy one time, and it threw me off. I ate it, but it was strange. But what's your favorite, Pastor Scott?
The dressing is my favorite, but I do not eat cranberry sauce because, as you know, I don't like sauces in general.
Well, that's
I don't
true.
eat ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, and I don't eat cranberry sauce on my dressing.
But it's almost a jelly. Anyway, whatever. That's okay.
Yeah, but I just don't like cranberry sauce.
Fair
so I'm
enough.
out. But I do have some statistics that I think you will both find interesting that I put together for today's
All right, I'm ready.
podcast.
I'm very
And
interested.
some of those statistics have to do with cranberry sauce. So
Come on.
Let me share a few of
I hope
these.
this is
Y'all-
going to be good.
This is going to be really good. So y'all jump in anywhere you want to. So the average American consumes 4,500 calories on Thanksgiving Day. 4,500.
Are you kidding?
Now, the
Perfect.
regular amount of calories on a regular day is usually around 2,500. So
Yeah.
we almost double the calories
Wow.
on Thanksgiving Day. Then a single Thanksgiving meal can be 3,000 calories alone. Now we get into the next part. Americans eat an estimated 40 million turkeys at Thanksgiving,
Whoa.
which is 1.4 billion pounds of turkey meat.
Pat, where are they hiding them turkeys up there? My goodness.
So that's crazy. Now, Tyce, you're a big turkey person.
I am a big turkey person. Yeah, I love a good smoked turkey. I think oven baked turkey is probably one of the worst meats that you can eat.
Yeah.
It's just so dry.
Dry as
It's
all
just
get out.
dry and
Yeah.
That's the
flavorless.
one thing about turkey meat is it's typically dry.
I mean,
Unless you smoke it, though. Smoking it is the way to go.
Now, I heard through the grapevine, Tyce, I'm
Yep.
just chasing a rabbit
Okay.
here, that you've had a Friendsgiving,
I have.
which is one of your meals that you've already
Yep.
celebrated, and you had a large
Oh my
turkey.
goodness, yeah. So we
had
buy
not
our
heard this.
turkeys early because you buy them before they go over $1 per pound.
Okay.
And so the smallest one that Walmart had was a 21-pound turkey, and there were 2, 4, 6, 7 of us.
7 people trying to eat a 21-pound turkey.
Yes,
3
there's-
pounds a person.
There's plenty of leftovers. Plenty of leftovers. I froze a lot of turkey. Made the turkey broth after, and so we're doing. Yep.
I heard the turkey was so large you almost couldn't get it in the smoker.
Yeah, I actually had to. Landon doesn't know this, but I had to like snap the spine just a little bit because the spine of the turkey comes up. I
Yeah.
said it
Wow.
like chiropractor just to get it to shrink.
Come on.
All right, so let me keep going. Americans eat an estimated 80 million pounds of cranberries at Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And of that amount, 5,062,000 gallons is jellied cranberries, which is the amount that would be equivalent to 8 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Wow,
What?
that's crazy.
That's a lot of cranberry
is
sauce.
Unbelievable. This is. I was not seeing this coming with these statistics here.
All right. Campbell's Soup sells 40% of their total sales for the year of cream of mushroom at Thanksgiving.
Really?
40% of it.
Green bean casserole.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tyce looks like he can
I do.
understand that.
I do eat some green bean casserole.
All right. Then I've got just a couple more. Shoppers purchased nearly 214 million pounds of potatoes and 50 million pounds of sweet potatoes every Thanksgiving.
I love some potatoes at a Thanksgiving dinner.
Now, I'm going to give you one more. This is a trivia piece for the future
Oh,
that you
come
can
on.
use, okay? In 1953, an employee at Swanson, Swanson Foods,
Mm-hmm.
made a mistake and over-ordered 260 tons of frozen turkey. And they ended up having to put those in 10 refrigerated rail cars because they didn't have anywhere to store them. So a guy named Jerry Thomas decided to purchase 5,000 aluminum trays and create a food tray of turkey, dressing, sweet potatoes, and a pat of butter. And using an assembly line, it was the first set of TV dinners that were ever created because a guy over-ordered turkeys at Thanksgiving in 1953.
Wow.
And by 1954, 10 million turkey dinner trays had been sold.
Whoa.
So if
crazy.
you want to know about how frozen dinner trays got started, it started at Thanksgiving when a guy over-ordered too many turkeys.
Wow, that is wild.
How about that?
That is a pretty good stat right there. That's a good trivia question because it's crazy how the world worked then. That somebody could just I assume he maybe got in touch with like a supermarket or something.
I guess so.
But he just was one guy that just bought all these things and said, "Hey, I'm gonna put this." I'm sure he had a team, but it's not like you had to have a brand to go into the store and then get approved. And there's all these processes now. But he just said, "Hey, I got all this frozen food."
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you saw that on a cross point card.
Yeah.
Just
Now,
Yeah,
that
that's
had
our
nothing
next
to do
fundraiser.
with, none of this had to do with the Bible today and gluttony,
No.
but it all does tie back to eating a lot of food at Thanksgiving. So have either one of you ever struggled with gluttony?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
my goodness. I mean, that's going to be one of the bigger sins for me right there.
yeah.
You have?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have. I've
Really, Pastor,
I
that's hard
have.
for me to believe.
Back in my heyday when I could eat a lot of food, more than I do now,
Okay.
I ate too much pizza at one time and made myself sick almost. And then I've had too many chocolate chip cookies out of the oven, fresh,
Oh, yeah.
with a glass of milk, maybe a gallon of milk.
There we go. But now you found your limit, though.
I
on the
found my
chocolate chip
limit.
cookie. Well, that's good. I haven't found mine yet. So
So, all right. So, what are some verses that address gluttony? Do y'all either one have some verses that address this very difficult topic for us to talk about as we come to Thanksgiving?
it is very difficult. I have got Proverbs 25, verse 28.
Okay.
And that is, like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. So I'm taking the self-control route here because this was a convicting verse to me thinking about gluttony because I do probably eat too much too often. And it was a good analogy that it's like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. There's nothing stopping what's going in and what's going out. If you're lacking self-control, then you are like a city in chaos. And I think that that's good for us to remember that, for me at least, self-control on grabbing that next dessert that just looks so good is one of my hardest temptations when it comes to self-control. I have the least self-control when I'm looking at that dessert and I'm going, oh man, I know I'm full, but I have not yet tried that one. I mean, that is just tough for me.
Tyce, you got a verse?
I've got Philippians 3, 18 and 19. And so it says, For have I told you before, and now say again, even with tears, many live as enemies of the cross of Christ. Their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mind is on earthly things. And so just talking about Clark with the self-control and just it's a city going in and out. I mean, when you're in gluttony, I mean, your stomach really is your God. And like you feel like you can't control it at all, but like you want to glorify your stomach and give it what it wants. And so almost in the same way as you have reverence to a God, you have reverence to your stomach. And you're like, man, that would go good in my stomach right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to quote a very ancient scholarly man, the wisest man who ever lived, there's nothing new under the sun. And this verse that you've just read, or these verses you've just read, remind us that they struggled with overeating and making their God their stomach, just like we still do in 2025. So there's nothing new under the sun. I was not being quite as spiritual as you guys. As I thought about gluttony, was reminded of a story that as a child just fascinated me. And that's going to come from Judges chapter 3, where Ehud, the left-handed judge, decided to kill their enemy at the time, which was King Eglon of Moab. And what I always loved about Ehud is that he was left-handed. I was left-handed growing up. Yep. So this story really appealed to me because he hid his sword on the opposite side, on his inner thigh. Mm-hmm. They usually checked the left thigh because a right-handed person would have reached for the knife or the sword on the left side. But instead, he hid his on the right side, which they didn't check because he was left-handed. And then when he went in to see to see King Eglon, it says, then Ehud approached him while he was sitting alone in his upstairs room. It was cool. Ehud said, I have a message from God for you. And the king stood up from his throne. Ehud reached with his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and plunged it into Eglon's belly. Even the handle went in after the blade, and Eglon's fat closed in over it, so that Ehud did not withdraw the sword from his belly, and the waste came out. Ehud escaped by the way of the porch, closing and locking the doors of the upstairs room behind him. And so the first real large man that we meet in the scripture, who's so large that a sword can go in him and not be seen, is this King Eglon of Moab. So apparently he struggled with gluttony. Now, I don't know that he was a follower of God, but he was still a gluttonous man.
So Eglon sounds like a big boy's name, you know?
Eglon.
Like here comes Eglon out on the field.
Yeah, he wasn't named that. He got nicknamed that one, Eglon. That was not quite as spiritual as us. I knew what was coming, and I was kind of cringing. I was like, oh, I know what this story is, just all the way in.
And here is our first ministerial gluttonous man, and that would be Eli, that's found in 1 Samuel, because in 1 Samuel chapter 4, the Ark of God has been captured, and when the news comes to Eli, who is the reigning judge of the moment, it says in verse 18, when he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backwards off the chair by the city gate. And since he was old and heavy, his neck broke and he died. Eli had judged Israel for 40 years. So again, these were the stories that captured my imagination as a child, that he was so heavy that when he fell, his neck broke. And so we sometimes have a little bit of a reputation as ministers of being overeaters. And so it may have started with Eli, who was a prophet, not a prophet, but a judge of God during that time. So those are the things that popped in my mind when I was thinking about biblical references. Y'all have any others that you want to share?
Well, one that's probably going to come to the mind of a lot of people, especially if I mention self-control, is the fruit of the Spirit. And it's Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I think that's one for us to recognize, that we're called to walk in step with the Spirit, which means to live by these fruits, to have these fruits show from our lives. And it's hard for someone in ministry, but also just someone who's a witness, who's an ambassador for Christ in general, to go out and to talk about discipline and to talk about denying oneself to follow Christ, if it's clear that they struggle with gluttony, or maybe they, they share the gospel with somebody. I'm just thinking here, they share the gospel with a family member who doesn't know Christ before the Thanksgiving dinner. We see them at Thanksgiving, we start talking about religion and we share the gospel, and then they look over at us during the Thanksgiving dinner and we're just stuffing our faces. I mean, it's hard to talk about denying oneself and then to also have this issue with self-control.
Okay, so this brings me to the story. I think you have a story, Clark, you're going to share at some point. I have a story that I'll share at this point because it goes along with what you're saying. You may have heard me tell this story before, but we had a lady when I was a pastor in Picayune. Her name was Miss Mabel. A lot of the other senior adult ladies at the time really liked to listen to a pastor in Texas. I won't call his name, but he was a televangelist that was very popular at the time, and he was a rather large man. And these other ladies at Pine Grove thought this televangelist was a great preacher, but one week he preached on gluttony, and Miss Mabel came to me and said, I don't know how in the world these women can like him so much when he's the fattest man that's ever stood behind a pulpit, and he just preached on gluttony. So how can we trust a man who's not even taking his own words to heart and trying to tell other people not to be gluttonous when he's as round as he can be? So to go along with what you've just said, I think there are people who sometimes notice that, that we preach a gospel that includes being self-controlled, led by the Spirit, but yet we're not self-controlled.
Yeah.
So just some food for thought there.
That's true.
Using this topic of gluttony.
Yeah.
My
story had nothing to do with, I was going to use it as an introduction, so we'll just get my story
we've already
for now.
missed our chance.
Well, we'll do it for the next podcast.
Okay.
then.
All right. Very good. All right. So do you think that gluttony is discussed adequately in churches today?
No.
I don't know when I haven't preached a sermon on gluttony
No.
in a long time.
I just preached this past Sunday, and I kind of offhandedly mentioned it.
Yeah,
but
you
even
did.
that was not a extensive, hey, let's make sure tonight at our Thanksgiving dinner, let's not at all be gluttonous. I mean, I sort of said that, but it wasn't a sermon on gluttony. So
You just said it in passing. So why do you think we were reluctant to talk about gluttony?
it's a lot easier to point out a plank in somebody else's eye than the needle in somebody else's when there's a log in our own. So I think that could be one of the reasons. We live in the South. Sarab, who's not from the South United States, is laughing back there because
I'd be curious to ask Sarab, we should have asked this before we started, if when he was in Minnesota, if they were more prone to mention gluttony in the sermons,
that would be
or when he
interesting.
was in Nepal growing up. If
Shaking
there
his
was
head,
any,
nope.
He's
No, they
shaking
didn't
his head
mention it
no.
there
Okay,
either,
so
yeah.
neither place, neither Minnesota nor Nepal talked about gluttony. It's been a long time since I've heard a sermon on gluttony, to be honest.
Yeah, I think part of the reason too is just, yes, we live in a place of abundance, and so we talk about the need, like how food is a need, and so it's kind of hard to say, well, there's people out here who don't have food, and like we have food, and so why not like thank the Lord for giving us an abundance? But I think oftentimes with the South specifically, and this is something that I know a little bit more from the being northern, not as northern as Sarah, but like in the South, you can't go anywhere without bringing a dish with you. I think that's just how they show hospitality and how they show kindness. Because I mean, we'll invite people over, and we're like, no, we got dessert, we've got dinner covered, and then everyone that we invite still comes up with a dessert.
They still bring food.
They still bring food. I just think they're nice, and then you're trying to be nice, and like, oh, I'm gonna eat what you brought, and so. I think that's part of the reason we don't talk about it and we do struggle. It's just a way that people show kindness here. And it's kind of hard to get up on stage and preach, well, like, don't do that.
That's
that
true.
makes sense. That's a good insight, especially in the South, as you said. That's
Right.
really good. Okay, here's my question that's a little bit kind of chasing an off-ramp, if you will. Is gluttony limited to food?
Oh, I like this question.
What do you think about that? So I'm going to read a verse from Titus chapter 1, verse 12, and it says, one of their very own prophets said, Cretians are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. So this is Paul writing to Titus, he's sending him to Crete to finish some unfinished business that Paul didn't get to take care of. And he mentions that the Cretians in general are known as lazy gluttons. does he just mean that they eat a lot, or is there a more comprehensive idea that maybe Paul had in mind, that in general they are gluttonous in other ways? And that led me to think about this week and preparing for this: is gluttony limited to food?
That is a good question. I think a lot of times gluttony gets paired with drunkenness, and we don't typically say drunk on anything except for
Alcohol.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I could see it being going further, but I think from what I've read in Scripture and what I can recall right now, it's pretty set on food. And I actually have a verse for this. I know Clark had a thought, but
No.
he was about to say something.
No, you have the Bible, which is better than any
No, it's
thought I
okay.
have.
So what I was going to talk about, because I actually had the same question, but typically we say fasting is the same thing, and we go to fasting and we're like, we're going to fast from social media, we're going to fast from TV, but fasting in the Bible typically also always points to food. And so I was in Matthew 6, verse 17, but when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to men that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. Your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And I mean, if you're fasting from social media or TV, there's not really a need for this whole like put oil on your face. But when you're fasting from food, it's the same thing, where like there's visible deterioration of your body as you need food. And I think the same is true with gluttony. It's just a visible, they say gluttons because it's very visible, like you have eaten too much. But you're not really it's harder to tell that you're a glutton on something that's not food.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Clark?
I think you can be gluttonous in other areas, but kind of like Tyce said, is a little bit of just terminology. I think that if we were to say someone is a glutton for rest or something, that would just be laziness, So it's just like, we have other terminologies to use. The only thing I'm thinking of, the phrase, is a glutton for punishment. I've heard that one said before. That's the only time I've ever heard gluttony used outside of food. But I think that when we start to think of, I think the principle is good. Like, we can be gluttonous in other areas, but we just have other words for it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The only one that came to my mind as I thought about this, and again, this is related to the South, is we might be gluttonous on our sports.
Yeah.
Like, we are so consumed with sports that our whole lives revolve around that. So to go back to your Philippians reference point, that their God is their stomach, the gluttonous thing that we might choose to focus on in the South would be SEC sports.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, there could be
true.
other terms, as you just mentioned, Clark, that could better express what I've got in mind.
But in principle,
we probably are gluttonous when it comes to our SEC sports.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good thing for us to encourage listeners in this podcast. I mean, being gluttonous with food is a big problem, especially here in the South. It's probably a problem in many other places. But the older I get, which is not very old yet, but the older I do get, I recognize that the phrase everything in moderation really is so applicable to so much in life. Now, you can't do everything in moderation. There are just some things that are just flat out sinful. I can't be rude in moderation. Rude in moderation would just be no rudeness. But for most things that are acceptable, everything in moderation is a great application to apply to your life, I would say.
Okay, this is my final off the beaten path question.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we always assume large people are gluttonous? Because that's not always the case.
I was actually going to come back to this about what you said about the person in the pulpit, as I was going to circle back in this podcast and say,
well, let's get to it right here.
That I think it is somewhat unfair for us to assume that. I think that there could be, for one thing, like a medical condition. Like that could certainly be what's happening. It could also be that they were gluttonous in the past and that they're fighting it now. Like, we don't know that somebody that's 350 pounds and 5'8" could have been 400 pounds 3 months earlier. That now is on the correct path downwards. So I think that we should be careful, because some people may have even clicked off the podcast where we said, they go, man, they don't know anything about me, which is true. Some people are not gluttonous just because they're a little bit bigger. So
I think also, this could exercise has a lot to do with it too. Like, you could eat in moderation, but if you're not exercising, then that also causes issues.
Right.
It's like it's both and. It's not and or. Typically.
Yeah. I've met a few people in my lifetime who had some medical conditions, and the medicine they were required to take to maintain their condition, keep it under control, did cause them to either swell because of water retention, or it was like steroids, and it just made them, grow.
Yep.
And they could not help it. It was not that they wanted to be that size, but to counterbalance other issues going on in their bodies, that was their only option, was the medication, which caused them to gain weight. And so I don't think we should ever assume that just because a person is large or maybe larger than normal, that they're gluttonous. There could be other conditions. Now, for some of us, it's just we're eating too much. That would be me.
Me too.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of make sure we didn't offend anybody, because you might be taking medicine or just have a health condition that causes you to gain weight more rapidly, and we are not trying to be mean-spirited in any way toward you. We want to actually encourage you to continue on your path, and what can we do to help, So that's my thought.
So let me ask y'all this. Should we talk about gluttony more?
I don't think it would be bad for us to speak about it occasionally.
I agree. I think that tying into the sermon that I preached recently, I mean, all sin, whether we see it or not, is bringing destruction.
Yeah,
so
I agree with you.
I think that, we should call out gluttony a little more often. Like I said, I don't think it would hurt, for us to mention it more often, just because it is separation. It does distance us from our Father when we're in sin. So I think it's important for us to talk about, and it's a good discipline to enact, because self-control is one of those things that, if you can learn to be self-control in one area, it often filters into other areas. Right. So if you can learn to control your desires, your physical desires, then even one physical desire, it kind of translates over to many other physical desires, and even spiritual disciplines too.
Right. That's good. Okay, we're going to finish with this. What encouragement would you offer someone who might struggle with gluttony?
This is a good question. I think sometimes gluttony looks differently. I think some people just have a problem of like, it's in front of me, so I have to eat it. And so I'm going to eat even though I'm full. And other people just struggle of like, I just eat through the day. Like, I'm not full, but I'm not hungry. And so I think you've got to kind of pick and choose, or not pick and choose, but you got to really be aware of how you struggle or how the person you're helping struggles. And is it, hey, like, the best thing to do is like, you just need to be out and about, because then you're not by food. But then the other side of it is like, do you need just someone that's with you at the table and like calling you out, like, hey, you've had enough. You've had your food. Like, it's okay. Like,
can we blame our parents who said to us, now you've got to eat every bite on your plate because there's some child over in China that's not getting to eat tonight?
Well, I guess it depends. I mean, if that's for the pie, like if that's for dessert, you get a big old bowl of ice cream, maybe. But typically it's the green beans that your parents are
it's the green beans. Yeah. There's a little bit of me that when I have a small portion left and I know I'm going to have to put it in the refrigerator or throw it away and it tasted so good, I just hate for it to go in the garbage.
Yeah, that's true.
Or get in the refrigerator and never get eaten.
That is true. Like
and
a
so I just say,
well,
I'm going to finish it because it's so good. So going back to your, like, it's in front of you and I see it, so I just don't want it to go to waste.
Yep, that's fair.
That is true.
Okay, any other thoughts you have, Clark? I've got a little list, but I'm going to let y'all go first.
Yeah, I think firstly, I'll start with not so much of an encouragement as much as just a challenge. Like, recognize it as sin. Like, it is sin. I think sometimes we can throw it into the back of our minds and go, well, the Bible kind of talks about this, but everybody else around me is doing it. It's not as big of a deal as like murder or something. So I'll just be okay with this. But I mean, it is sin that distances us from God. But then, as my encouragement, just to pray, always. I mean, truly, like, if you're looking at a box of donuts, say, Lord, give me strength not to eat these. Like, it might seem funny, but for some people, that's truly what needs to happen, is like, Lord, just give me the strength today not to be enticed by this donut. Get behind me, Satan, kind of thing. I have to do that sometimes, for sure. So
maybe don't go by Shipley's that day.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
No, I'm picking. All right, so here are a few that I have. I think it's important to be careful not to jump into diets that make outlandish promises.
This is good. Yeah.
A lot of people who struggle with gluttony say, well, I'm gonna go on this diet, and I found this one that promises the world that I can lose all this weight and be healthy in 6 weeks. You probably can't. You didn't get to be in the place that you are physically in 6 weeks. You got there maybe over 6 years. So be real cautious about those diets that promise things that probably can't happen. And instead, eat proportional meals. I think that's the thing I'm learning.
That's good.
I noticed my father-in-law, when I came into the family, he kind of went from a plate that was a normal-sized plate, but as he got older, he went to a smaller plate because he wasn't as active. And I was really like, there's no way I could ever just eat that much and survive. But as I get older, I kind of see the principle of what he was doing. I'm going to fill up this small plate, but that's all I'm going to eat because I'm not as active as I used to be. So I've got to slow down what I'm taking in. So eat proportional meals. Third, exercise regularly. This can be as simple as walking 20 minutes 3 times a week. I talked to Miss Shara Good, who's a member of our church and who's an exercise trainer. She said 3 sets of chair squats with no weight. If you just put a chair behind you and you do 10 sets of up and down and then break and do, 10 of them.
10 reps.
3 sets, 10
sets,
reps.
yeah.
There you go. She said that's really helpful for people to maintain body posture. Climb the stairs instead of the elevator. Those are simple things you can do to exercise regularly. If you're in a building that has an elevator, just use the stairs. I do that when I go to hospitals a lot. And then set a weekly food goal. This is number 4. Like, for example, this week I'm just going to drink water at all my meals.
I like that.
Instead of soft drinks. And then next week I'm just going to eat 1 dessert a day instead of 2. That would be for me. Or then the third week I'm going to have sweets every other day instead of every day. And then the fourth week I'm only going to eat bread once a week.
Oh, that one's hard for me.
And so like you kind of build, and each week you've got a goal that you're working on, and then you just keep adding to your goals. And then over 6, 8, 10 weeks, you kind of see a difference in the way you're eating. Instead of trying to do it all at once. I think that's what we tend to do is, I'm going all out this week. And then you get so frustrated you can't accomplish it.
Yeah.
This is number 5. Work on your emotional health with your physical health. I think there's a correlation between those two. And then number 6 is memorize scriptures that focus on good health or being a good steward of the body. For example, 1 Corinthians 6:12, 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20, 1 Corinthians 10:31, Philippians 4:6 and 7. These are just some examples of scriptures that probably tie to good health or being a good steward of our body. And then the last one I had was pray about the matter, which you've already mentioned. So, any others that you want to throw in there?
I think that's good.
Yeah, you just knocked that out the park with a perfect list there.
Now, I want to finish, at the beginning I talked about some statistics related to Thanksgiving. 4,500 calories around Thanksgiving is what we take in. But I do have a thankful statistic to finish with.
Okay.
According to a 2015, and I know that's 10 years old, but I'm going to hang on to it, New England, this is from the New England Journal of Medicine study, a person technically only gains 0.8 of a pound at Thanksgiving.
There we go.
So it's a real myth that we gain 5 pounds at Thanksgiving.
Come on.
So let's hang on to that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Any other thoughts before we finish up on this topic of gluttony?
Maybe shoot for 4,400 calories this Thanksgiving rather than 4,500. Beat the statistic. And no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, just be mindful.
Yeah, just be mindful. That's a good encouragement. We hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and our next episode will be about Thanksgiving, so we hope you'll come back and join us for that. Thanks for being a part of our Table Talks today.